Kane Mercer awakened 2 God-Tier Mechs, then rejected both for the weakest machine alive. 1 week later, a 1,000-year record shattered and that worthless machine held the blade. But before the world learned why, Kane had to survive the choice everyone called suicide. And that is the story we're diving into today. Before we begin, hit the like button and subscribe for more epic manhwa recaps. Now, let's return to the Awakening Hall, before anyone understood what Kane had seen. The Awakening Hall erupts when the legendary direwolf mech enters Kane's first resonance. Its frame promises brutal offense and overwhelming battlefield pressure. Before the cheers fade, the Fortune Bastion appears as his second God-Tier option. That machine specializes in resource generation, support systems, and long-term growth. Teachers stare because either inheritance could transform Kane's entire future overnight. Then a third silhouette forms behind them, plain and almost embarrassingly ordinary. It is a blank mech with no talent, attribute, inheritance, or growth path. The crowd's excitement collapses because everyone assumes the final choice is useless. Yet a hidden voice speaks inside Kane's mind at that exact moment. The words sound impossible, almost too perfect for the weakest machine in the hall. For 1 second, Kane wonders whether desperation is making him believe a lie. Then limitless evolution reveals what no divine inheritance offers: growth without a ceiling. The price is brutal: abandon 2 guaranteed futures and trust a voice nobody else can hear. Divine resonance begins fading, leaving only seconds before every choice disappears. Teachers shout for the Fortune Bastion because its resource path seems safest. Students demand the direwolf because visible power always earns immediate respect. Kane ignores them and studies the silent machine. Nobody else understands. The strongest option in another person's eyes may still imprison his future. He raises one hand and chooses the blank mech. For half a heartbeat, even Kane hears nothing. Then the hall detonates. Teachers shout that he has thrown away 2 divine inheritances. Students laugh because the blank mech owns nothing they can measure. No attribute, no legacy, no proven road upward. Derek Voss smiles before anyone else. At last, the rival who always stood above him has stepped down willingly. He says nothing and walks through the noise. Only after the doors close does his breathing change. The divine resonance is gone now. If the hidden voice lied, there will never be a second choice. His fingers tighten once around the empty mech's control seal. Then the system opens. 500 evolution points bloom across a panel only he can see. A second reward follows. The reward carries one name: Voidfire. The name alone carries pressure that makes the blank mech tremble. Limitless evolution begins the fusion without delay. Dark fire threads through armor channels that did not exist moments earlier. Metal clicks. Heat rises. The ordinary frame reshapes from within. Kane feels the machine answer every breath and every pulse. His knees loosen, and the breath trapped in his chest finally escapes. The system was real. He had not gambled everything on a hallucination. Still, one successful fusion is not enough to survive a battlefield. A divine shell can impress a crowd. Control, judgment, and growth decide who comes home alive. The national mech trials begin in 7 days. Every monster there can become score points: evolution, energy, and proof. Kane grips his blade and starts preparing for the first real test. That night, every imperfect strike follows him into restless sleep. Before sunrise, Kane returns to school and enters his private training room. One classmate notices he looks stronger instead of broken by yesterday's humiliation. She ignores the online gossip and says machines never decide everything alone. Kane's discipline, studies, and blade skill always separated him from everyone else. Even a basic machine can become dangerous when controlled by the right pilot. He accepts the encouragement, then begins practicing the Skybreaker blade art. The first unassisted strike sends a burning vibration across the reinforced chamber. A heavy target bends beneath force no newly awakened student should possess. Void fire strengthens the slash without revealing its true nature externally. Kane repeats the movement until every wasted motion disappears completely. Each adjustment makes the attack faster, cleaner, and more lethal than before. By midday, no opponent at his current rank could block it directly. He continues because one strong technique will not survive a real battlefield. Footwork, turning speed, recovery, and endurance receive the same merciless attention. The blank mech quietly reshapes itself around his preferred blade posture. Its joints adapt through experience instead of inherited mechanical instructions. Heat resistance rises whenever void fire circulates at greater intensity. Kane trains until his hands shake beneath the synchronization pressure. Rest begins only after the system records measurable improvement. Nearby, Derek celebrates awakening the speed-focused Razor Mantis mech. His followers call it the perfect machine for dominating the national mech trials. Derek laughs with them, but the laughter comes a little too quickly. Before awakening day, every comparison ended with Kane's name above his. One school tournament still burns most sharply. Kane knocked him from the top 32 before the crowd finished cheering. The Razor Mantis finally feels like proof that the old ranking can be erased. Yet if Kane remains stronger even inside a Blank Mech, that proof means nothing. Then a violent impact shakes the entire training floor. Dust drops from the ceiling. Sensors estimate more than 11,000 pounds of impact force. Derek rushes toward the source, expecting a senior pilot or hidden instructor. Instead, he finds Kane alone inside a damaged private chamber. The reinforced target is bent inward, its surface still smoking. Derek asks whether the Blank Mech supposedly caused that. Kane glances at the empty room. Who else could have? Derek laughs, but his eyes keep returning to the ruined target. He insists a worthless machine cannot produce that force after one day. Awakenings changed everything, he says. Resources, teams, rift zones, and guild positions now follow mechanical potential. The Blank Mech should qualify for none of them. He reminds Kane about their old tournament, trying to reclaim the wound first. Kane answers that changing machines did not cure his bitterness. Derek's practiced smile disappears instantly. Derek's followers step forward, eager to restore the balance around their leader. Kane asks why several awakened fighters need to block one fallen joke. Nobody answers him for several tense seconds. That pause bothers Derek more than the insult. He stops his followers before they attack something he cannot yet read. With false politeness, he tells Kane to rest before the trials. The young pilot walks past without slowing. Only after he leaves does Derek admit the blade carried unfamiliar pressure. A scorched smell clings to the room. The hidden attribute can only be fire. One follower calls it luck. Derek does not believe in luck. He orders every recent movement, training record, and rumor about Kane investigated. If the Blank Mech threatens to make him second again, the Rift Zone can settle it. 7 days pass, each dawn exposing the weakness he failed to erase before sleep. By the final night, even lifting his blade makes the mech's joint scream. Rumors grow louder, yet Kane gives them nothing except continued silence. His enemies prepare speeches while he prepares methods to survive real combat. By trial morning, the Blank Mech still looks completely ordinary outside. Behind that plain armor waits power nobody at school can measure correctly. Candidates from every Westbridge Academy gather before the rift gates. Crowds surround famous awakeners while Kane walks beneath, mocking whispers. Attention shifts toward Ironveil from Westbridge Central Academy. The Solar Seraph mech stands behind him like a miniature sun. Unlike the others, Adrian does not laugh at Kane. A pilot who rejects two divine machines is either a fool or hiding something. Adrian prefers discovering which answer is true with his own eyes. His pride is real, but so is his discipline. He wants first place earned cleanly, not handed over by reputation. Dean Marcus Hale insists machinery alone cannot decide every battle. Westbridge Central's Dean asks whether Kane can still defeat Adrian. Dean Hale answers that only an actual blade can settle that question. Before the argument continues, an Azure Worm mech descends overhead. The air compresses beneath its arrival. Thousands of conversations die at once. Commander Lucas Reed introduces himself as Westbridge's chief examiner. The assessment lasts 10 hours inside a monster-infested rift zone. Points come only from beasts killed under each candidate's neural signature. This is not school. No teacher will stop a claw before it reaches bone. Candidates can bleed, vanish, or die before rescue ever finds them. The realm contains outer, middle, and central core zones. Deeper territory offers more points and fewer chances to leave alive. When the gates exhale their first wave of demonic air, Kane tastes iron. For one moment, his mouth goes dry. Training rooms never smelled like blood. The system can make him stronger, but it cannot swing the blade for him. He steadies his breathing before anyone notices. Tactical maps appear, and candidates immediately form specialized teams. Scouts sell information. Tanks promise safety. Healers choose the strongest escorts. Derek gathers followers around his Razor Mantis and selects a careful route. Another team invites Kane because his old blade skill still commands respect. He declines without needing more time. Safety through numbers will also divide every kill and slow every decision. When they ask whether he will truly enter alone, Kane answers honestly. Once the hunting starts, they would hold him back. The countdown reaches 0. Thousands of mechs ignite together. Kane's profile displays a high-risk label beside Westbridge 3rd Academy. He hears a cash register opening. Then he crosses the wall of light alone. The world changes into dense wilderness saturated with heavy demonic energy. Broken paths stretch through forests toward the distant central region. Reaching the core requires several hours if he follows common routes. That leaves enough time to collect everything useful along the journey. An ironhide rat leaps from bushes beside the entrance path. The low-grade beast expects another frightened student wearing beginner armor. Kane sees only the first point waiting to enter his account. His blade flashes once before the rat finishes opening its jaws. The creature collapses with its skull divided by a precise strike. The wristband awards 1 official point and confirms the neural signature. Limitless evolution secretly grants additional energy from the same kill. Kane smiles because both reward systems work exactly as planned. He accelerates deeper into the forest instead of celebrating easy prey. Another rat appears, attacks, and dies beneath a single controlled slash. Real danger forces faster synchronization than any stationary training target. Void fire remains hidden inside. Brief heat ripples along the blade. Nearby candidates hear combat, but cannot follow. Kane's rapid movement. Bodies mark his route while the public leaderboard begins changing unexpectedly. A candidate using a blank mech enters the upper rankings within minutes. Examination staff first suspect delayed data or wristband calculation errors. Every registered kill survives verification under repeated system checks. Kane keeps climbing because he wastes no time chasing damaged targets. 1 slash usually ends each encounter before resistance can develop. Officials demand combat footage from the candidate. Nobody expected to notice. Magnetic interference prevents continuous live streaming inside the rift zone. Military drones must record locally before transmitting delayed files outward. Kane moves too quickly for the first tracking attempts to lock on. Reed orders 3 drones deployed until someone captures usable evidence. Meanwhile, Kane reaches territory occupied by mid-grade Tier 1 monsters. Their armor, instincts, and speed surpass everything near the entrance. One charges through several trees before he finishes observing its body. He waits until momentum removes every possibility of retreat. His blade enters the exposed neck with void fire compressed inside. The creature falls without understanding why its attack suddenly ended. A middle-grade beast cannot withstand 1 serious slash anymore. Kane allocates accumulated energy, strengthening the Blank Mech's internal frame. Its external appearance remains plain, despite the sudden increase underneath. That camouflage becomes more useful as his public score rises. Most candidates crowd along obvious routes leading toward the central core. Kane changes direction and heads toward a quieter border region. Fewer students means nobody can steal prey or interrupt his rhythm. The border contains dangerous groups avoided by cautious trial teams. Individual hunting soon feels too slow for the lead he wants. He still needs hundreds of points to secure unquestioned first place. Then shrill cries burst from the rock beneath him. One cry becomes 10, then more than 30 rats spill from the tunnels. Claws scrape stone in a tightening circle. The air turns sour with wet fur, dirt, and old blood. Their formation carries the pressure of a high-grade Tier 1 monster. Any ordinary solo candidate would run before the final gap closes. Kane's pulse jumps anyway. 30 mouths, 30 angles, 1 mistake. Then the system marks every body as potential energy. Fear sharpens into focus. If hunting one by one is slow, he will take everything together. The first wave leaps. Steel hisses through the first wave. A burning arc opens for throats before the claws arrive. Hot blood strikes the Blank Mech and steams against void fire. The swarm screams and rushes harder. Kane steps into them. Short cut, turn, elbow, reverse slash. Not one movement is wasted. A rat bites empty air where his knee stood a heartbeat earlier. Another loses its spine beneath a downward strike. Bodies jam the circle, narrowing the beast's own path. Machine, flame, and blade begin moving like one animal. Then the ground erupts. The scarred rat king charges through its dying colony. Its roar shakes dust from the cliffs. Kane waits until the bronze skull fills his vision. One sidestep and one upward thrust drive the blade through its brain. The king collapses so hard the stone beneath Kane's feet cracks. For several seconds, only dripping blood and cooling metal make any sound. Hundreds of points arrive at once. The brutal group harvesting strategy works. Kane looks toward the border route, where more beasts will eventually pass. His score surges toward Adrian's lead much earlier than expected. Outside observers believe someone entered impossible information into the leaderboard. Adrian still holds first through steady divine machine performance and strong fundamentals. Kane trails by only a small and rapidly shrinking difference. Derek's team hears the Rat King's last roar from the nearby ridge. They follow the sound and find a field of torn bodies. Kane stands in the center, scraping black blood from his blade. Derek says the Rat King must have been wounded already. Not one follower agrees aloud. 5 more middle-grade beasts rush toward the smell. Green-headed wolves, phantom leopards, iron claw rats. They strike from different angles. Kane disappears between them. A wolf's jaws snap shut on sparks. The blade returns through its neck. A phantom leopard flickers behind him, but void fire exposes the shadow. He turns and splits its chest before it becomes solid again. Derek's followers stop breathing. The Razor Mantis was supposed to make him the fastest student here, yet Derek cannot follow Kane's blade. Someone checks the leaderboard. The screen now shows first place. The Blank Mech now sits above Adrian's divine machine. Derek hears the result like another crowd laughing at the old tournament. For 1 week, he imagined the awakening had erased Kane. Instead, Kane has made his miracle look small. His followers whisper about schools, guilds, and military recruiters already watching Kane. Once Kane leaves the realm, the Ironwood Guild may no longer frighten him. Derek pictures his uncle learning that the family's chosen heir finished second again. The Razor Mantis was supposed to erase every comparison with Kane. A follower quietly produces a berserk beast fruit. When broken, its scent drives nearby monsters mad and temporarily increases their strength. After the frenzy, the beasts become weak enough to harvest safely. The follower proposes letting them tear Kane apart first. Then Derek can claim the exhausted monsters and return to the top ranks. Another teammate hesitates before answering him. If Kane dies here, everyone can call it an ordinary rift casualty. If the truth surfaces, Derek's family name becomes poison across Westbridge. He imagines walking away and watching Kane become untouchable. He imagines agreeing and hearing one dead classmate inside every future cheer. His thumb hovers over the fruit while one teammate waits for an answer. Derek knows exactly where rivalry ends and murder begins. Then he tells himself the rift kills candidates every year. The lie is weak. He uses it anyway. He gives permission anyway. The berserk beast fruit lands nearby. A crimson scent rolls across the battlefield. The 5 beasts convulse. Bones crack beneath swelling muscle. Foam gathers around their teeth. Kane smells something bitter beneath the blood and turns. He notices the danger too late. The first berserk wolf hits like a speeding transport. His armor alarms scream. He slides backward, boots carving twin trenches through stone. The second beast is already above him. He ducks beneath the descending claws. Claws shriek across his shoulder plate, peeling metal into sparks. Someone deliberately created this frenzy. Void fire floods the blade. The next wolf lunges with its mouth wide. Kane steps inside the bite and cuts upward. The head spins away, trailing black fire. Derek's confident smile dies instantly. A phantom leopard strikes from behind. Kane hears air split beside his ear and twists on instinct. Its claw misses his throat by barely 2 inches. His return slash opens the belly. Heat, blood, and the stink of burned fur fill the clearing. Frenzy makes the beast stronger. It also makes them stupid. The third dies, charging straight into blade aura. The fourth loses its spine after overextending. The final beast tries to run when instinct briefly defeats the drug. Kane does not let it. One flash across the neck ends the trap. 5 enhanced beasts lie burning in under 1 minute. Behind the rocks, someone steps backward on loose gravel. Kane turns toward the sound. He orders the hidden observers outside. Derek appears with a smile that cannot hold its shape. He calls the fruit an accident. The thrower breaks first and points directly at him. Derek immediately denies approving the trap. Kane raises the cracked fruit between 2 fingers. Would that boy dare without your approval? Derek's face answers before his mouth can. His supporters mention military drones and trial rules. They invoke the Ironwood Guild. One even offers Kane a future introduction if he forgets what happened. He listens until every excuse ends. Then his hand begins shaking. Not from fear, but from realizing how close those claws came. One fraction of a second separated survival from something nobody could undo. He had believed his growing power placed him beyond people like them. That arrogance almost killed him. His voice lowers into something colder. You tried to murder me. Now, you want me to feel unsafe for surviving. The first conspirator falls before anyone sees the blade leave its sheath. Panic erupts across the remaining group. They insist they were only following Derek. Kane gives them one final choice. They must kneel and apologize now. Derek hears humiliation, not mercy. He orders everyone to attack. 4 machines spread out. 4 mechs spread wide, blades rising from every side. Kane crosses the gap before they can lock him inside. Metal screams under the first slash. A second pilot drops his weapon and begs. The others blame Derek, the fruit, and fear. Kane answers that a squad should remain together. Void fire rises around the battlefield. Their tactical signals vanish one after another. At headquarters, monitors register the entire team losing contact. No drone captures the final seconds. Dark fire consumes the remaining evidence without ordinary scorch marks. Silence crashes down so suddenly that Kane hears coolant ticking inside his armor. Burned fur, hot metal, and bitter fruit smoke poison every breath. His sword hand trembles once before he forces the fingers closed. He drags one slow breath through the smoke and tastes metal. Victory brings no satisfaction this time. Only a colder rule. Power does not remove danger. It punishes anyone who forgets danger exists. Kane exhales, steadies his grip, and lets void fire erase the battlefield. Bodies, fragments, and fruit residue vanish without ordinary scorch patterns. When the last ember dies, the leaderboard is still moving, and the core is waiting. The open terrain remains rich with monsters and offers excellent visibility. Since enemies brought prey toward him, he will continue using their location. First place is no longer a possibility, but an objective he intends securing. At headquarters, staff report a military drone losing contact nearby. The machine approached Kane's position before its signal vanished completely. Commander Reed considers whether a flying monster destroyed it. Magnetic interference prevents officials from confirming the exact cause. A second drone remains active several miles from Kane's current location. Reed orders it higher and forbids any closer approach. He still wants footage showing how a Blank Mech surpassed Adrian. Dean Hale celebrates because Westbridge 3rd Academy finally leads number 1. Rival teachers dismiss Kane's performance as temporary trial luck. They insist Adrian's Solar Seraph Mech remains fundamentally superior. Its divine Solar Trinity flame should dominate once stronger monsters appear. Dean Hale points toward the leaderboard and refuses to discuss imaginary outcomes. For the first time in generations, his school holds first place. Everyone agrees the central core will decide the genuine final ranking. Inside the realm, more candidates crowd toward the obvious central routes. Their presence scatters beasts and reduces Kane's hunting efficiency. Remaining near the border will slow his advancement considerably. He decides to push into territory controlled by superior Tier 1 creatures. Those beasts provide greater points, energy, and possible evolution materials. Adrian studies the leaderboard without blinking. Kane's points are real. That fact irritates him less than the laughter surrounding every comparison. People praise divine machines when they win, and blame their pilots when they lose. Adrian refuses to become a decoration carried by the Solar Seraph Mech. He wants to defeat Kane cleanly and prove his own control. Deserves the name. Solar Trinity flame gathers around him as he enters deeper territory. Elsewhere, Kane reaches a valley ruled by Argent Moon Wolf. The beast waits on a broken ledge, silver markings breathing across its waist. Its eyes follow him before the rest of its body moves. Then the Argent Moon Wolf vanishes. The first impact hits Kane's guard like a collapsed wall. His forearm goes numb. Armor alarms shriek inside the cockpit. The wolf's iron tail smashes the stone where his head stood. Fragments whip across his visor. He answers with a shoulder cut. Bright sparks scatter across the valley. The blade barely marks the hide. For the first time since awakening, his strongest attack feels small. A quiet thought slips through him. What if limitless potential only means limitless time? He may possess a perfect future and still die here today. The wounded wolf circles him carefully. Its claws click once against stone, then disappear again. Kane forces his numb fingers closed around the hilt. Breathe, watch, and survive before dreaming about evolution. He combines Gale steps with the Dragonflow blade art. The second exchange is tighter. The third is faster. Void fire threads through each turn, leaving bitter heat in the air. The wolf's tail clips his ribs and throws him across the valley. Pain flashes white across Kane's vision. Adrian arrives on the ridge in time to see Kane rise. He expected arrogance from the district's new first place. Instead, he sees blood at Kane's mouth and patience in his stance. The blank pilot is not overpowering the beast. He is learning it while injured. Adrian came to measure Kane's power. Instead, he learns that Kane's real advantage is patience under pain. His own solar trinity flame burns brighter, but still resists precise control. Strength on paper means little when power still fights its pilot. A challenge now would prove only that Adrian learned nothing. He turns away before pride can change his mind. First, he will master his flame. Then he will ask Kane for a proper rematch. Below, Kane notices a rhythm inside the silver markings. They brighten during acceleration. They dim for one heartbeat when the wolf changes direction. There the opening finally reveals itself. The weakness exists, but reaching it requires becoming bait. Kane lowers his guard and lets one knee buckle. The Argent Moon Wolf commits completely. Wind tears past his face. At the final instant, Kane pivots under the bronze skull. The blade enters beneath the ribs exactly as the silver pattern dies. Void fire erupts inside the beast. Its momentum carries the corpse several yards before it crashes. Silence returns in broken pieces. Broken stone settles across the valley. Cooling metal ticks inside Kane's armor. He remains kneeling until sensation returns to his hand. The system awards 1200 evolution points. He laughs once, without humor. That was too close. When he requests immediate mech evolution, the system refuses. Energy alone is insufficient. The blank mech requires external materials to choose its next form. The Argent Moon core becomes his first component. He could force another upgrade elsewhere, but not here. A sudden tier change would attract questions he cannot answer. Blade comprehension offers a safer path. He allocates energy toward the Dragonflow blade art. The familiar structure breaks open. Blade force leaves the weapon for the first time. The new force is not flame. It is not compressed wind either. A true cutting aura. Kane looks toward the core as the final hour begins. This time, he does not mistake strength for safety. He moves with caution and kills even faster. Ranged slashes strike beasts before claws can reach him. Void fire leaps through fresh wounds. Groups collapse under a rhythm sharpened by fear, pain, and understanding. His points surge again. What Kane cannot know is that this time, someone is finally watching. A military drone finally records Kane fighting inside the central core. The delayed file reaches headquarters and silences the entire monitoring room. Officials first notice the terrifying speed and economy of his blade. Commander Reed identifies the movement as the Dragonflow blade art. One teacher assumes Kane merely reached its advanced mastery level. Reed studies the trajectories and corrects him without looking away. The technique has crossed beyond perfect mastery into a transcendent stage. Kane achieved blade aura while only 18 years old. That accomplishment is rarer than many recognized divine machine awakenings. Several teachers refuse to believe someone using a blank mech achieved it. The footage confirms blade force leaving the weapon on every decisive strike. Another observer notices flame surrounding an attribute-free mechanical frame. They initially assume Kane awakened a separate fire supernatural ability. The synchronization rate appears far too complete for a recent attachment. Reed estimates Void Fire belongs to an exceptional ability class. It has already fused entirely with the blank mech's internal structure. Kane forced an empty machine to create its own attribute and combat path. A blank mech is useless only while it remains truly blank. Void Fire became its inheritance, talent, and evolutionary foundation. Combined with transcendent blade comprehension, the future ceiling becomes unknowable. Kane also modifies ordinary machinery through self-directed adaptation. Officials finally understand why his score dominates Adrian's divine performance. His attacks contain no unnecessary movement or theatrical display. Every strike exists for one purpose, which is ending the fight. Reed says Kane already moves like someone trained for battlefields. A pilot relying only upon machinery cannot display such lethal control. Major factions value real combat instincts more than beautiful awakening ceremonies. For now, Kane has become more attractive than the divine candidate. Dean Hale requests footage for the regional headquarters immediately. Talent of this level cannot remain buried inside one district. Reed orders copies distributed to every attending school representative. Their supporting factions must see exactly what Westbridge produced. Anyone hoping to recruit Kane should bring genuine resources and sincerity. The footage enters the permanent National Mech Trials Combat Archive before the event ends. Kane's name begins traveling beyond Westbridge without his knowledge. Inside the realm, he continues killing instead of watching the leaderboard. Real combat refines timing better than months of repetitive practice. Every superior beast forces another change in angle, speed, or footwork. 30 seconds remain when the final teleportation warning reaches all candidates. Most exhausted students stop fighting and prepare for safe extraction. Kane views 30 seconds as enough time for one final harvest. Several beasts rush toward the sound of his previous attacks. He gathers remaining energy into Void Fire and Blade Aura together. One violent burst cuts through the entire group almost simultaneously. The last beast folds as white light swallows, blood still hanging in the air. For one suspended heartbeat, Kane watches the battlefield vanish beneath his feet. Then the Rift Zone is gone, replaced by roaring trial grounds. Candidates search the final leaderboard before their injuries are treated. Adrian finishes above 2,100 points. That score would have been astonishing during almost any previous year. Everyone asks whether Kane remained ahead after the final surge. The board refreshes and displays 4,351 points. Silence covers the grounds before thousands of voices erupt together. Kane earned more than double Adrian's already exceptional result. Commander Reed announces that the score broke a 1,000-year regional record. No candidate across the 4 Western territories ever reached that total. Students who dismissed Kane as finished now avoid meeting his eyes. Teachers who criticized his decision immediately change their expressions. Recruiters reach Kane before medics can clean the blood from his armor. One promises an elite mentor, while another offers priority access to rare materials. Their voices overlap until every earlier insult becomes a convenient misunderstanding. Kane watches those same people fight for his attention. Adrian removes his helmet and approaches through the noise. The applause meant for the Solar Seraph mech now belongs to someone else. He does not blame luck, the battlefield, or his divine inheritance. Adrian admits Kane controlled his power better and earned first place. Then he promises their next confrontation will be much closer. Kane accepts the challenge from the only rival willing to lose. Honestly, Commander Reed arrives and asks what Kane wants after making history. Kane wipes demon blood from his sleeve and answers without blinking. Do record breakers receive additional rewards? For 1 second, even the recruiters stop talking. Then Reed laughs loud enough for the entire front row to hear. Kane admits praise cannot buy the resources required for further evolution. His score guarantees regional champion status and broad national recognition. More importantly, every major faction has already received the combat footage. The bidding war is about to begin, and Kane intends to hear every offer. The Blank Mech entered as everyone's favorite joke and leaves carrying history. Official records confirm Kane as regional champion before the crowds disperse. Representatives from all 10 major powers begin arriving almost immediately. Commander Reed watches the scramble with open amusement. The military cannot bend its merit rules just because Kane impressed him. Still, early support matters before any rank 1 pilot enters a real war zone. Kane asks Reed to help evaluate the contracts coming toward him. Reed gives him a temporary pass containing his direct number. The pass also opens restricted auctions, resource facilities, and controlled zones. Dean Hale realizes Kane has borrowed a commander's status without joining the military. Reed leaves him with one warning: every generous offer buys something back. Kane pockets the device instead of pretending he understands faction politics. Before he leaves the grounds, a Stormbreaker envoy blocks the exit. Elder Roland Pierce receives Kane inside a quiet, private chamber. Warm tea waits on the table, but the door locks behind him. Stormbreaker offers $10 million as an immediate signing bonus. The package includes any monster core below rank 6 and a B-class blade. Pierce speaks gently while positioning the contract directly beneath Kane's hand. Sign tonight, and Stormbreaker will build his future from the ground upward. Wait until morning, and those terms may disappear with the next candidate. For one quiet moment, Kane imagines everything the money could solve. Enough resources to evolve without begging anyone. Enough equipment to replace damaged gear before it fails. Enough freedom to control his cultivation pace for years. Then the contract feels heavier than the reward printed beside it. A path chosen tonight may shape every battle that follows. Kane asks for time. Pierce's assistant smiles without warmth and says major powers never wait in line. Pierce stops him, but the warning has already landed. Stormbreaker protects its own, Pierce says, and remembers who walks away. Kane meets his gaze without touching the pen. Nobody else will carry the consequences of the signature. Because he stands alone, he must choose more carefully, not less. The room stays silent long enough for the locked door to feel louder. Pierce gives him until morning. After that, Stormbreaker closes the door completely. Outside, the assistant calls Kane greedy for delaying. Pierce watches him leave longer than necessary. The boy refused money most adults would kneel to receive. That confidence may be arrogance or proof Stormbreaker mispriced him. Dean Hale later explains that Stormbreaker desperately needs a rising frontline blade. That need could become shelter. It could also become a chain. Kane decides to hear one more offer before signing anything. Before midnight, Elder Julian Cross of Emberfall Order reaches Westbridge. He offers no tea, deadline, or speech about loyalty. He simply tells Kane to show him the blade from the combat footage. Force Cross backward half a step, and Emberfall will discuss real terms. Kane drinks an energy replenisher and activates the Blank Mech. His first tests the Elder's defense. The second tests Cross's timing. The third hides blade aura behind a surge of void fire. The training floor booms beneath the collision. Dust leaps from the walls. Cross's heel slides backward exactly half a step. For 1 second, neither man speaks. Then Cross laughs like someone who just uncovered buried treasure. The footage understated everything. Kane reached the transcendent stage of Dragonflow blade art at 18. Cross refuses to negotiate with authority too small for that talent. He takes Kane directly to Emberfall's Ironveil branch. On the way, Cross explains why their order changed its position. The record earned attention. Kane's decisions under pressure earned the trip. He adapted, conserved movement, and killed without decorative techniques. That style belongs in rift zones, not comfortable training halls. Ironveil rises around sealed arenas, combat towers, and resource gates. The air smells of oil, scorched metal, and battlefield medicine. Returning hunters limp past them with cracked armor and bloody bandages. Some still laugh despite injuries that would terrify ordinary students. Kane understands the contrast immediately. Emberfall is not selling safety, it is selling battle. Elder Victor Stone waits beside a force-absorbing puppet. He has already seen the recordings, but his expression remains unreadable. One strike, he says. Exaggerate anything, and leave with nothing. Kane draws his blade. The room seems to narrow around the gathering aura. His first step cracks the reinforced floor. Void fire compresses tightly instead of exploding across the chamber. Blade aura snaps forward with a sound like torn steel. The puppet stabilizers lock, then scream beneath the impact. Its armored chest folds inward around the strike. A deep scar remains in material built to swallow Tier 1 attacks. Stone walks over and touches the scar before his expression finally changes. $20 million in immediate development funding. Any monster core below rank 6. 1B class combat weapon. $500,000 each month, and a spatial bracelet. The offer arrives once. Nobody performs it twice for an audience. Kane asks to call Commander Reed before signing. Stone permits it, more interested than offended. Reed refuses to choose Kane's future for him. Stormbreaker offers structure, protection, and heavy institutional support. Emberfall offers dangerous rift zones and relentless real combat. Kane looks at the scar, still smoking across the puppet's chest. The answer becomes clear. Still, his hand pauses above the contract. $20 million can buy tools. It cannot buy battlefield judgment. He remembers berserk claws passing barely 2 inches from his throat. Then Kane signs the contract. Emberfall is not the safer choice. That is precisely why it fits him. Stone accepts Kane as an elite initiate and issues core-level access. Before dismissing him, the Elder gives one warning. Talent opens the gate. It keeps nobody alive beyond rank 5. Kane promises Emberfall will not regret making an exception. Outside, Cross finally exhales. Stone once trained him for 1 month, nearly broke him, and pushed him toward rank 7. Kane answers with a faint smile. Pressure with results is easier to trust than praise without proof. Waiting recruiters surround them when they return to Westbridge. Cross ends the competition simply. Kane has already signed with Emberfall. Nobody repeats the benefits, and Kane offers the cameras no victory speech. By midnight, the bidding war is over, but his real investment is only beginning. Elder Cross summons the Crimson Phoenix skiff for their flight. The crimson platform unfolds beneath them like a mechanical flower. Its materials cost nearly $100 million. It can fly, shield, and survive attacks from terrifying high-level enemies. Kane asks about cheaper vehicles. A few $100,000 buys basic transportation. Tens of millions buys something that may actually save a life. He decides to wait. Luxury can come after personal combat power. Elder Cross approves the practical decision. At the Ironveil branch, members recognize Kane before he lands. His access card is prepared at a level normally reserved for core candidates. An attendant leads them to Residence 99. The residence is large, but Kane barely notices the rooms. He notices the reinforced training chamber. Blade simulations, mech adaptation, and impact testing are all included. Tomorrow morning, newcomer assessment will place him against same-rank fighters. Elite access brings resources and immediate challenges. That arrangement suits Kane perfectly. He needs both pressure and resources. Before leaving, Elder Cross points toward his own nearby residence. He tells Kane to call if anything feels wrong. He specifically warns that restricted deliveries may hide unexpected danger. The warning sounds casual. Kane remembers it later. He opens Emberfall's restricted marketplace inside Residence 99. Thousands of cores, weapons, supplements, and combat manuals fill the display. Void Fire already gives him destructive firepower. The Argent Moon fight exposed something else. The missing advantage is simple: speed. One missed turn nearly let the wolf tear through his ribs. He selects a lightning-attributed monster core to sharpen acceleration and reaction. For his weapon benefit, he chooses a plain B-class blade built for penetration. The weapon carries no jeweled guard. It has no ceremonial design either, just an edge meant to enter reinforced armor and come back intact. The two choices strengthen movement and killing power. Neither purchase solves his endurance problem. He scrolls through restricted manuals until one title stops him. Crimson Tide Blade Art. A red warning pulses beside the listing. The warning reads, "Special handling required. Abnormal blood energy reactions may occur during delivery or first contact." He remembers Elder Cross's parting words. So that was not casual advice. The technique converts energy from defeated enemies into renewed vitality. During long battles, every kill can fuel the next. That structure fits limitless evolution almost too perfectly. The cost is equally obvious. Uncontrolled blood energy can damage organs, mech synchronization, and judgment. Previous users recorded violent backlash after exhausting their own reserves. Kane reads every warning twice. Then he buys it. Lightning will provide the missing speed. A penetrating blade for defense. Crimson Tide for endurance. Together, they answer the weaknesses the trials exposed. The purchases consume almost all $20 million. For a moment, Kane stares at the nearly empty account. Yesterday, that amount belonged only to stories told about powerful families. Tonight, he spent it in minutes. His jaw locks when the balance drops almost to zero. He leaves the confirmation screen open, staring longer than he intended. Then he looks at the old blade scarred by the Argent Moon wolf. Money left untouched cannot stop claws. Even so, the decision remains unchanged. Delivery confirmations appear one after another. The lightning core is stable. The B-class blade is cleared. Combat supplements are cleared. Crimson Tide remains marked for monitored transport. Kane prepares the training room before anything arrives. He seals the testing area and activates the Blank Mech. The branch system registers tomorrow's same rank assessment automatically. There will be no quiet adjustment period. The immediate pressure suits him perfectly. He wants to learn what these resources can do under pressure. A courier notification flashes. The vehicle has entered Emberfall's protected residential district. Estimated arrival: several minutes. Kane reviews the Crimson Tide warning again. Abnormal fluctuations may occur. Do not open the container before verification. The wording feels less like policy now, and more like a threat. The Lightning Core and B-Class Blade pass every remote scan. Then the third shipment changes status. Crimson Tide Blade Art, abnormal. A pulse appears on Kane's sensors. The pulse begins slow and deliberate. Then it grows heavy enough to feel physical, almost like a heartbeat. The branch security network remains silent. The display measures the source at 160 feet. The pulse grows stronger. The distance falls to 130 feet. Kane steps away from the entrance and grips his old blade. Void fire crawls beneath the Blank Mech's plain armor. The distance drops again to 100 feet. Every authorization code remains valid. Every seal appears untouched. Yet a sealed manual should not feel alive. Only 65 feet remain between them. Kane's earlier doubt disappears beneath cold focus. Whatever arrives tonight will test more than his money. The display contracts to 30 feet. The delivery vehicle turns toward residence. 99. The blood pulse strikes once through the walls. The courier brakes outside his door. The vehicle stops. The distance counter does not. Kane raises his blade as the reading drops below 0.